Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the massive alien station grow larger on the main screen. The Terra's resolve had traveled 3 months to reach this place. Now, looking at the strange metal structure that stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction, he wondered if coming here was the right choice. "Captain, we're getting another message from the station," said Lieutenant Kim So-ra from her position at the communications desk. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as alien symbols appeared on her screen. "What do they want this time?" Lee asked, not taking his eyes off the station. "Same thing as before, sir. They want us to dock and meet with their council. They keep saying it's for our own good." Lee made a sound of annoyance. For 3 weeks, the aliens had been sending the same message over and over. Come to the station, meet with the Galactic Council, accept their protection and guidance. Join their happy family of species. The problem was that Lee had read the fine print. Dr. Park Jin-woo walked up beside the captain, holding a thick folder of papers. Park was a smart man who used to work for Earth's military before becoming a space explorer. He had spent days reading every word of the alien treaty. "Captain, I've gone through their offer again," Park said. "It's still the same. They want complete control of our military, our technology, and our expansion into space. They call it protection. But it looks like slavery to me." Lee nodded. He had come to the same conclusion. The Galactic Council claimed they had kept peace in the galaxy for 50,000 years. They said they helped younger species grow and learn. But their help came with a price that was too high to pay. "Sir, incoming transmission," Kim So-ra announced. "It's from Counselor Vexithera herself." The main screen changed, showing a being that looked like it was made of living crystal. Vexithera's voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but her words were not gentle at all. "Captain Lee Dae-ho of the human vessel," she began, "you have kept us waiting for far too long. This is your final opportunity to accept our generous offer of membership in the Galactic Council. We have been patient with your species, but our patience has limits." Lee stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. "Counselor Vexithera, we appreciate your offer, but our answer remains the same. Humanity declines membership in your council." The crystal being's light flickered in what might have been surprise or anger. "You cannot be serious. No species has ever refused our protection. You are young and foolish. You do not understand the dangers that exist in this galaxy." "We understand perfectly," Lee replied. "We've read your treaty. You want us to give up our freedom in exchange for your protection. You want to control how we grow, what we learn, and where we can go. That's not protection. That's control." Vexithara's form seemed to grow brighter. "You speak of things you do not comprehend. We have guided hundreds of species to prosperity and peace. We know what is best for younger civilizations." Dr. Park stepped up beside Lee. "With respect, Counselor, we've studied the histories you provided. Every species under your protection has become exactly the same. They all follow the same rules, use the same technology, and think the same thoughts. That's not growth. That's forced sameness. You humans are arrogant beyond measure," Vexithara said, her voice becoming harder. "You have barely left your home world, yet you think you know better than beings who have traveled the stars for millennia." Lee smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "We may be young, but we're not stupid. We know what you're really offering. You want another pet species to add to your collection. Well, humans don't make good pets." The alien counselor was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, Her voice was cold. "You are making a terrible mistake. The galaxy is full of dangers that you cannot imagine. Without our protection, your species will not survive." "We'll take our chances," Lee said firmly. "Very well," Vexithera replied. "But know this, humans. When you come crawling back to us begging for our help, we may not be so generous. This offer will not come again." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Lieutenant Kim So-Ra turned in her chair. "Captain, what do we do now?" Lee looked around at his crew. These were good people who had volunteered to come on this dangerous mission. They had families back on Earth, homes they might never see again. But they had come anyway because they believed in something important. "Now we go home," Lee said. "We tell Earth what we learned here. We prepare for whatever comes next." "Sir," Dr. Park said quietly, "they're not going to just leave us alone. The Council has never been told no before. They won't know how to handle it." Lee nodded. "I know. But that's their problem, not ours. We came here in good faith, hoping to make friends. Instead, we found bullies who want to control us. Well, humans have been dealing with bullies for thousands of years. The Terra's resolve began to turn away from the massive alien station. As they moved toward the jump point that would take them home, Lee noticed something on the sensors. Several alien ships were following them, keeping their distance but staying close enough to watch. "They're already keeping an eye on us," he told his crew. "Everyone stay alert. We're not out of this yet." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, heading back toward Earth, Lee thought about what would happen next. The Galactic Council was used to getting their way. They had probably never dealt with a species that could say no and mean it. But humans were different. They had fought wars against impossible odds. They had survived disasters that should have destroyed them. They had always found a way to keep going, even when everything seemed hopeless. The Council thought they were dealing with just another young species that needed guidance. They had no idea what they had really found. Earth would need time to prepare for what was coming. Lee was sure the aliens would try again, probably with less friendly methods. But humans had one advantage the Council didn't expect. They had nothing left to lose, and everything to fight for. Admiral Choi Hyun-soo sat in his command chair, watching the reports come in from across human space. 3 months had passed since Captain Lee's return from the Galactic Council station, and Earth had not been sitting still. "Admiral, we're getting another signal from the edge of the Sol system," reported Commander Oh Tae-kyung from his position at the sensor station. "Same as before. Unknown ships just watching us." Choi nodded grimly. The alien ships had appeared 2 weeks ago, staying just outside weapons range but close enough to observe everything humans were doing. They never responded to communication attempts, never came closer, never left. They just watched. "Any word from Dr. Yoon's team?" Choi asked. "Yes, sir," Oh replied, checking his displays. "Dr. Yoon Hae-jin says they've made another breakthrough with the alien technology they captured last month." The breakthrough had come when a small alien scout ship had suffered engine problems near the human colony of New Tokyo. The ship's crew had been rescued and returned safely to Council space, but not before human engineers had gotten a very close look at their technology. What they found was both impressive and disappointing. Dr. Yoon walked onto the bridge, carrying a tablet full of data. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her whole career studying alien life. Now she was studying alien machines, and what she learned was changing everything. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, handing him the tablet. "We've finished analyzing the Council ship's computer systems. Choi looked at the screen, seeing charts and numbers that meant nothing to him. Explain it in simple terms, Doctor. Their technology is incredibly advanced, Yoon began, but it's also incredibly limited. Every system on that ship was built to exact specifications that were approved by committee. No modifications, no improvements, no changes at all. What does that mean for us? Yoon smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It means they're predictable. Every council ship of that class will have exactly the same systems, the same weapons, the same weaknesses. They've traded innovation for standardization. Admiral Choi leaned back in his chair. This was useful information, but it also raised new questions. Doctor, how long do you think it takes them to approve new technology? Based on what we found in their computers? Decades, maybe centuries. They have to test everything, submit reports, hold meetings, get approval from multiple committees. By the time they approve something new, it's already old. This was very different from how humans worked. Human engineers were always trying new things, always looking for better ways to do old jobs. Sometimes their ideas failed, but sometimes they found solutions that nobody had thought of before. Sir, Commander O called out, we're getting a priority message from High Command. The Council has sent a survey fleet to the Busan system. Admiral Choi stood up quickly. Busan was one of humanity's newest colonies, home to nearly 1 million people. If the Council was sending ships there, it meant they were escalating the situation. How many ships? He asked. 47 vessels, sir. It's a full survey fleet. Dr. Yoon looked worried. Admiral, in Council procedures, a survey fleet is sent to evaluate primitive species before they offer protection, but we've already refused their protection. So why are they surveying us now? Because they don't understand how we could refuse them, Yoon explained. They probably think we didn't understand their offer. They're going to study us again, looking for reasons why we said no. Admiral Choi walked to the main display, which showed a map of human space. 47 red dots marked the Council ships, now moving through their territory. The aliens were being very thorough, visiting every human world and station. Commander O, activate Protocol Scattered Star, Choi ordered. O's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Across human space, defense systems that had been built in secret began to power up. Ships that looked like cargo haulers revealed hidden weapons. Space stations that appeared to be simple mining platforms showed their true nature as military outposts. Protocol Scattered Star was Admiral Choi's idea. Instead of building obvious military bases that enemies could target, humans had hidden their defenses inside everyday structures. A factory that made farming equipment could quickly start making weapons. A medical station could become a command center. A school ship could turn into a fast attack vessel. The Council's survey fleet was about to learn that humans didn't build their defenses the way other species did. Sir, we're getting reports from the fleet, O announced. The alien ships are confused? Confused how? They keep scanning our facilities, but they can't figure out what they're looking at. Our mining operations don't match any pattern in their databases. Our shipping routes make no sense according to their models. They're having trouble categorizing us. Dr. Yoon laughed softly. Of course they are. They're trying to fit us into categories that worked for other species, but humans don't fit into neat categories. The survey fleet spent 2 weeks studying human colonies. Their reports, which human intelligence managed to intercept, made for interesting reading. The aliens couldn't understand why humans put military facilities inside civilian areas. They didn't understand why human ships traveled in seemingly random patterns. They couldn't figure out why human colonies were placed in locations that made no strategic sense. What the aliens didn't realize was that humans had learned to survive by being unpredictable. On Earth, the best generals were the ones who could think in ways their enemies couldn't anticipate. The best scientists were the ones who tried experiments that seemed crazy but sometimes worked. "Admiral," Commander O said, "the survey fleet is requesting permission to land survey teams on our colonies." "Absolutely not," Choi replied immediately. "Sir, they're saying it's a standard procedure for evaluating developing species." "We're not a developing species and we're not being evaluated. Send them a message. Tell them they can observe from orbit, but no alien sets foot on human soil without our permission." The response from the Council fleet was immediate and angry. They demanded to know why humans were being so difficult. They insisted that survey teams were necessary for proper evaluation. They threatened to report human non-cooperation to higher authorities. Admiral Choi's response was simple: "We don't care." This seemed to break something in the alien commanders' minds. According to their experience, young species were supposed to be eager to please potential protectors. They were supposed to welcome evaluation and guidance. They were not supposed to be stubborn and uncooperative. Dr. Yoon monitored the aliens' communications, translating their increasingly frustrated messages. "Admiral, they're calling us unprecedented and anomalous. I think we're giving them a headache." "Good," Choi replied. "Let them be confused. The more time they spend trying to figure us out, the more time we have to prepare. But prepare for what?" The survey fleet completed its mission and departed, but their final transmission was ominous. They reported that humans showed dangerous signs of independence and concerning lack of respect for proper authority. In the Council's experience, species that refused to accept guidance usually caused problems later. Species that couldn't be properly categorized were unpredictable, and unpredictable species were dangerous. Admiral Choi read the intercepted reports and knew that humanity's troubles with the Galactic Council were just beginning. The aliens had expected to find a simple species that could be easily controlled. Instead, they had found something that didn't fit any of their models. Now they would have to decide what to do about it. Colonel Han Min-gyu stood on the observation deck of New Busan's orbital defense station, watching the alien fleet approach his world. 63 Council ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver against the black of space. They were beautiful in a cold, mechanical way. They were also here to attack his home. "Colonel, incoming transmission from the Council fleet," announced technician Bae Soo-jin from her station. Bae was young but brilliant, the kind of engineer who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. "Put them through," Han replied, though he already knew what they would say. The main screen showed Fleet Commander Zalgorath, a tall alien with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. When he spoke, his voice was calm and reasonable, which somehow made his words more frightening. "Colony of New Busan, this is Fleet Commander Zalgorath of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. You have been selected for immediate pacification and integration into Council protection. Surrender your military assets and prepare for occupation. This is for your own benefit." Han stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. "Fleet Commander, this is Colonel Han Min-gyu, Military Commander of New Busan. We decline your generous offer. Please leave our space immediately." Zalgorath's large eyes blinked slowly. "Colonel, you misunderstand the situation. This is not an offer. This is a correction. Your species has shown dangerous tendencies that must be addressed before they spread to other systems. The only dangerous tendency we've shown is thinking for ourselves," Han replied. If that's a problem for you, that's your problem, not ours. The alien commander was quiet for a moment, as if trying to process what he had heard. Colonel, you have 30 minutes to surrender. After that, we will be forced to disable your defenses and land occupation forces. Please do not make this more difficult than necessary. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Dr. Lim Yu-na, the colony's specialist in alien behavior, walked over to Han's position. She had been studying council psychology since first contact, and what she learned was both helpful and disturbing. Colonel, they really believe they're helping us, she said quietly. In their minds, we're children playing with dangerous toys. They think that once they take control, we'll thank them for saving us from ourselves. Han nodded grimly. What else did you learn from their communications? They've never fought a species that didn't want their protection, Lim explained. Every other race either surrendered immediately or was so primitive that resistance was meaningless. They have no experience dealing with organized technological resistance. This was useful information. The Council's military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority against helpless opponents. They had never needed to develop tactics for fighting equals. 30 minutes, Han announced to his staff. Everyone knows their jobs. Let's show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to take our freedom. The battle began exactly on schedule. Council ships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging to disable rather than destroy. They wanted to capture the colony intact, not turn it into debris. What they found waiting for them was unlike anything in their experience. The first surprise came when New Busan's orbital factories suddenly revealed hidden weapons. What the aliens had thought were simple manufacturing plants opened up to reveal massive railguns that began firing streams of metal at incredible speeds. How is this possible? Zalgorath demanded from his flagship. Our scans showed only civilian facilities. His tactical officer, an insect-like being with compound eyes, studied the displays frantically. Sir, they've been building weapons inside their civilian infrastructure. Our scans couldn't detect them because they're integrated into normal manufacturing equipment. The second surprise came when civilian ships throughout the system suddenly began acting like military vessels. Cargo haulers that should have been fleeing instead turned toward the Council fleet, revealing hidden missile launchers and plasma cannons. Technician Bei Su-jin had spent months working on this particular surprise. Every human ship in the system carried hidden weapons that could be quickly assembled from parts that looked like normal cargo. Sir, the human vessels are not following any recognized combat doctrine, reported the tactical officer. They're using civilian traffic control patterns as attack formations. Our computers cannot predict their movements. This was exactly what Colonel Han had hoped for. Council military systems were designed to fight other Council forces or primitives using captured Council technology. They were not designed to fight enemies who approached warfare completely differently. The third surprise was the most disturbing. Human forces began using the planet's industrial infrastructure as weapons. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids were redirected to slice through Council ship hulls. Mass drivers built to launch cargo into orbit began throwing chunks of metal at enemy vessels. They're turning their entire civilization into a weapon, Dr. Lim Yu-na observed from the command center. The Council can't comprehend this because they separate military and civilian technology. We don't. The Council fleet found itself fighting not just human military forces, but the entire human way of life. Every factory, every mining operation, every piece of infrastructure had been designed with dual purposes in mind. But the biggest surprise was still to come. As the battle raged, Colonel Han received a transmission from Admiral Choi, still back in Earth's solar system. "Colonel, Phase 2 is ready. Are you prepared to implement?" Han smiled grimly. "Do it." Across human space, hidden listening posts that had been monitoring Council communications for months suddenly began broadcasting, but they weren't sending military signals. They were playing music, jazz music to be specific. The Council fleet's computers went crazy. Their communication systems, designed to filter out noise and focus on important signals, couldn't handle the complex, improvised patterns of human jazz. The music acted like a virus, spreading through their networks and making coordination impossible. "What is this noise?" Zalgorath demanded. "Why are they transmitting random sounds?" His communications officer, a being that looked like a living crystal, was frantically working at her station. "Sir, it's not random. There are patterns in the music, but they change constantly. Our computers can't filter it out because it keeps evolving." What the aliens didn't understand was that the jazz wasn't just noise. Hidden within the musical patterns were coded instructions for human forces. The improvised nature of jazz made it perfect for military communications because it was impossible to predict or decode without understanding human musical culture. Human ships throughout the system began moving in harmony with the music, their tactics flowing and changing like a jazz performance. Council forces found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move while remaining completely unpredictable themselves. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Council fleet was retreating, leaving behind 11 damaged ships and a completely bewildered commander. "This is impossible," Zalgorath transmitted to Council headquarters. "They fight like they have nothing to lose. But they're clearly protecting something precious. They use civilian equipment as military weapons, but they're obviously a technological species. They coordinate through chaotic noise, but their tactics are sophisticated." The response from headquarters was swift and worried. "Return to base immediately. We need to reassess the human threat level." As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Colonel Han allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. New Busan was safe for now. But he knew this was just the beginning. The Council had learned that humans couldn't be easily conquered. The question now was what they would do with that knowledge. Director Nam Yunji walked through the hidden corridors beneath Seoul, reviewing intelligence reports that would have shocked the Galactic Council if they knew such information existed. As head of human intelligence, Nam had spent the last year building a network of spies, listening posts, and data collectors that reached deep into Council space. The aliens thought they were studying humanity. They had no idea that humans had been studying them for much longer. "Director, we've received the latest transmission from Captain Ryu," announced Agent Kang Mi-young, falling into step beside her. Kang was brilliant with computers and quantum communications, the kind of person who could break encryption that others thought was impossible. "What did the Ghost of Seoul find this time?" Nam asked. 3 more Council worlds with hidden military installations," Kang replied, handing over a datapad. Captain Ryu's stealth ship managed to map their entire defense network without being detected, but that's not the interesting part. Nam stopped walking and looked at the data. Captain Ryu Dong-hyun commanded humanity's most advanced stealth vessel, a ship that could slip through Council space like a shadow. For 6 months, he had been mapping alien territory, and what he found was revealing. What's the interesting part? The Council isn't as united as they pretend to be, Kang explained. 3 of their member species have been quietly building up military forces beyond what their treaties allow. They're planning something, but they're not telling the other council members about it. This was valuable intelligence. Nam had suspected that the council's perfect unity was more appearance than reality, but having proof was important. They reached the main intelligence center, a vast room filled with computers and analysts working on dozens of different projects. The center was completely hidden from the surface world, built in caverns that had been excavated in secret over the past 2 years. "Show me what else we've learned," Nam said. Kang led her to a large display showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked council territory, blue dots showed human space, and yellow dots indicated something much more interesting. "Director, remember those species the council claimed were extinct? The hegemony, the void walkers, and the crystal singers? They're not extinct, they're hiding." Nam stared at the display. According to council records, these 3 species had been destroyed in ancient wars or natural disasters. But the yellow dots on the map suggested something very different. "How did you find them?" "By accident," Kang admitted. "We were tracking council patrol routes and noticed they avoided certain areas of space. Always the same areas, always for the same reasons. They claimed those regions were dangerous or uninhabitable, but our deep scans showed signs of civilization. This changed everything. If the council had been lying about extinct species, what else had they been lying about?" "Agent Kang, I want you to focus all our quantum listening arrays on council internal communications. I want to know what they're really saying when they think nobody is listening." "Already done, Director," Kang replied with a smile. "You're going to love what we found." The quantum arrays were Nam's proudest achievement. Using technology that the council didn't know humans possessed, her team had been intercepting alien communications across half the galaxy. What they discovered was that the council's public face was very different from their private reality. Kang activated another display, this one showing transcripts of conversations between council leaders. "These are from yesterday's emergency session," she explained. "They're panicking about what happened at New Busan." Nam read the transcripts, and her expression grew grim. The council wasn't just worried about human military capabilities. They were terrified that other species might learn about human resistance and start getting ideas of their own. "Prime Counselor Ithves is calling for immediate total war," Kang continued. "She wants to destroy human civilization before the resistance spreads. But other council members are arguing against it. They're afraid that attacking humans might expose their own weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" "That's where it gets really interesting," Kang said, opening another file. "Remember how we thought the council was this ancient, powerful alliance? According to their own internal communications, they're barely holding together. Member species are constantly fighting over resources, territory, and political power. The only thing keeping them united is fear of outside threats." Nam sat down heavily, processing this information. The Galactic Council wasn't the wise, benevolent organization they pretended to be. They were a collection of scared species using their combined strength to bully everyone else. "There's more," Kang said. "We intercepted communications between the Council and those supposedly extinct species. The Council didn't destroy them. They exiled them to the edge of the galaxy and told everyone they were dead. Why? Because those species refused to accept Council authority, just like we did. But unlike us, they weren't strong enough to fight back. So the Council erased them from history and hoped everyone would forget they ever existed." Nam stood up and walked to the main display, staring at the yellow dots that marked the hidden civilizations. "Agent Kang, I want you to send a message to Captain Ryu. Tell him to make contact with these exiled species, carefully. If the council finds out we're talking to them, they'll know their biggest lie has been exposed, Kang finished. Director, this could start a galactic war. The war already started when we refused to bow down to them, Nam replied. The only question now is whether we fight it alone or with allies. Over the next 2 weeks, Captain Ryu's ship made contact with representatives of the 3 exiled species. What he learned was both encouraging and frightening. The exiled civilizations had spent centuries rebuilding their strength, waiting for an opportunity to reclaim their place in the galaxy. They had watched the Council grow more powerful and oppressive, but they had been too weak to challenge them alone, until now. Director, Kang reported, Elder Vorthak of the Hegemony wants to meet with our representatives. He's offering a military alliance against the Council. Nam considered this carefully. An alliance with the exiled species would give humanity powerful allies, but it would also confirm the Council's worst fears about human influence spreading to other civilizations. Set up the meeting, she decided, but make sure it happens in neutral space. I don't want to give the Council any excuse to claim we're harboring their enemies. The meeting took place 3 days later on a remote asteroid in unclaimed space. Elder Vorthak was an impressive being, tall and graceful with silver skin that seemed to glow with inner light. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. Humans, he said, you have done something we thought impossible. You made the Council afraid. For the first time in 50,000 years, they doubt their own power. Director Nam had come to the meeting personally, along with Dr. Moon Sang-wook, humanity's best diplomatic theorist. Elder Vorthak, we're honored by your contact, but we need to understand what you're offering. A chance to end the Council's reign of forced peace, Vorthak replied. My people, and the others who were exiled, have been preparing for this moment for generations. We have ships, weapons, and knowledge that the Council thinks no longer exists. Dr. Moon leaned forward. What do you want in return? Nothing more than what you've already given us, the elder said. Hope. You've shown that the Council can be resisted. You've proven that their technology isn't invincible. You've demonstrated that unity doesn't require submission. The alliance was formed that day, though it would remain secret for now. Humanity would share its tactical innovations and intelligence networks. The exiled species would provide additional military strength and knowledge of Council weaknesses. But more importantly, they would work together to build something new. Not another empire that ruled through fear, but a true alliance of equals. As Director Nam returned to Earth, she knew that the galaxy was about to change forever. The Council's age of unchallenged dominance was ending, and what came next would be decided by beings who refused to accept that freedom was too dangerous to be allowed. Ambassador Song Jae-min stood before the assembled Galactic Council. But this time, the situation was very different. 6 months had passed since the secret alliance with the exiled species, and now those extinct civilizations stood beside him, in the Council's grand chamber. The crystal being Vexithara looked like she was about to shatter from shock. Around her, the other Council members whispered in fear and confusion. Prime Counselor Ithves, a tall creature with too many eyes, stared at the assembled group as if seeing ghosts. This is impossible, Ithves said, her voice shaking. Those species are extinct. They died out centuries ago. Elder Vorthak stepped forward, his silver skin glowing brighter with each word. We were exiled, not destroyed. You told the galaxy we were dead, because the truth was too dangerous for your power. Admiral Shin Kyung-mi stood at Song's right, sighed, representing the combined human and liberation fleet that now surrounded the Council station. The fleet was massive, not because of its size, but because of what it represented. Ships from 4 different species, working together as equals. "Prime Counselor," Song said, his voice calm and respectful, "we're here to offer you the same choice you once offered us. You can join a new galactic community based on freedom and cooperation, or you can continue your old ways in whatever space you can hold." Dr. Moon Sang-wook activated a holographic display showing his new diplomatic framework. Where the Council's treaties were thousands of pages of rules and restrictions, Moon's document was surprisingly simple. The Galactic Cooperative, Moon explained, is based on 3 principles. First, no species may be forced to join or remain a member. Second, all members have equal voice regardless of their technology or military power. Third, knowledge and resources are shared freely but never forced on anyone. Counselor Vexathera's crystalline form flickered with agitation. "You cannot be serious. Without proper guidance, younger species will destroy themselves. Without hierarchy, there will be chaos. Without control, there will be war." "There's already war," Admiral Shin replied quietly. "You've been fighting it for 50,000 years against anyone who wanted to be free. The only difference is that now you might lose." The truth was that the Council was already losing. Over the past 6 months, 17 member species had quietly contacted human representatives about joining the cooperative. 3 had formally withdrawn from the Council, taking their fleets and industrial capacity with them, but the real blow had come 2 weeks ago when the Council's own intelligence services discovered how deeply human agents had penetrated their networks. Director Nam's people had been watching and listening to their most secret communications for over a year. "You've been spying on us," Ithves accused. "You've been spying on everyone for millennia," Song replied. "The difference is that we're offering to stop. Join the cooperative, and there will be no more secret intelligence networks, no more hidden surveillance, no more watching each other for signs of rebellion." This was perhaps the most radical aspect of Moon's framework. In the cooperative, intelligence sharing would be voluntary and transparent. Species would work together to solve problems instead of watching each other for signs of trouble. "What about security?" demanded Counselor Mordek, the insectoid strategist who had spent his career planning defenses against external threats. "Without central control, how will we coordinate against dangers?" Admiral Shin smiled. "The same way humans coordinated at New Busan, through improvisation, adaptation, and trust. You've spent so long planning for every possible threat that you forgot how to respond to unexpected ones." The Council members looked around at each other, and for the first time in anyone's memory they seemed uncertain. Their perfect unity was cracking as individual species began to consider their options. "You're asking us to give up everything we've built," Vexthera said. 50,000 years of peace and stability. "You're asking yourselves to give up 50,000 years of stagnation and control," Elder Vorthak replied. "Look at what you've become. Every member species thinks the same thoughts, uses the same technology, follows the same rules. That's not peace. That's death by another name." Song stepped forward again, his voice gentle but firm. "We're not asking you to give up everything. We're asking you to choose. You can continue as you are, ruling over whoever will still accept your authority. Or you can join something new, something that grows instead of just maintaining." Dr. Moon activated another display, this one showing technical specifications. In the 6 months since the cooperative was formed, member species have developed 12 new technologies that none of them could have created alone. Humans provided chaos and innovation. The hegemony provided precision and beauty. The Void Walkers provided efficiency and logic. Together, we've accomplished more than any of us could separately. This was the part that scared the Council most. The Cooperative wasn't just a political alliance. It was becoming a technological revolution that was advancing faster than the Council's careful, committee-approved progress had in centuries. "What happens to us if we refuse?" asked a small, furry creature named Counselor Hispatel. Admiral Shin's expression was sympathetic, but honest. "Nothing. Immediately. You'll continue to control whatever territory you can hold, rule over whatever species still accept your authority. But every year, more of your members will leave for the Cooperative. Every year, you'll become smaller and weaker, while we become stronger and more innovative. Eventually," Song added, "you'll be a small group of stubborn species sitting in a corner of the galaxy, insisting that your way is the only right way, while the rest of us build a better future." The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. Some Council members argued for war, insisting that the Cooperative must be destroyed before it could spread further. Others argued for negotiation, hoping to find some compromise that would preserve their authority while accepting the new reality. But, in the end, it was Counselor Vexithara who spoke the words that changed everything. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we have been wrong." The admission sent shock waves through the chamber. Vexithara was the Council's oldest member, the being who had overseen their expansion for over 10,000 years. For 50 millennia we have told ourselves that we were protecting younger species from their own mistakes, but perhaps we were really protecting ourselves from change. Perhaps we were so afraid of chaos that we chose death instead. One by one, the Council members began to speak. Some still refused to consider change, but others expressed interest in this new way of organizing galactic civilization. The final vote was closer than Song had expected. 47 Council species chose to join the Cooperative. 23 chose to continue as an independent council. 8 chose to remain neutral and watch how things developed. As the session ended and representatives from dozens of species began working out the details of transition, Song felt a mixture of satisfaction and concern. They had won a great victory for freedom, but they had also taken on enormous responsibility. "Ambassador," Dr. Moon said quietly, "do you think this will really work?" Song looked out at the bustling chamber where former enemies were becoming partners, where species that had been separated for centuries were learning to work together again. "I don't know," he admitted. "But for the first time in galactic history, we have the freedom to find out." 2 years later, Captain Lee Dae-ho, now Admiral of the Cooperative Defense Force, sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Liberty as his communications officer announced an incoming distress signal. "Admiral, we're receiving a call for help from the Outer Rim. Another species is requesting protection from something calling itself the Second Galactic Council." Lee smiled grimly. "Looks like some beings never learn. Prepare the fleet, Lieutenant. It seems we have work to do." As the Cooperative fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward another group of bullies who thought they could force their protection on unwilling species, Lee reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer divided between rulers and subjects. It was a complex web of alliances and partnerships where strength came not from control, but from cooperation, where innovation flourished because different species were free to try new approaches, where conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than conquest. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems, still disagreements, still species that preferred isolation to cooperation. But for the first time in galactic history, those were choices rather than imposed conditions. And if anyone tried to take that freedom away, they would discover that humans and their allies were very good at saying no.